Shalom, my friends, from the heart of the world, the beating heart of the world. Yes, my friends, the beating heart. Why the beating heart? Because the heart gives life to the body. And Israel, Hashem, through Israel, gives life to the world. Hashem gave Torah to Am Israel. And he said, in Torah, there is life. Keep my Torah, and you will receive life. It will bring you health. It will bring you prosperity. It will bring you the good from Hashem that he desires to give to his children. And in Yeshayahu it is written, for the Torah shall come forth from Zion, and the word of Hashem from Jerusalem. That means that from this beating heart, from Israel, from Jerusalem, the Torah will go out through all the world to bring life to all the world. The Torah is also called Etz Chaim, a tree of life, a tree that drinks the water from the source that is Hashem, and that it brings forth fruit for all those that grasp for it. So if you want to receive life, you have to grasp for Torah and implement Torah in your life. Today we are continuing our series on the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Last time we covered almost the biggest part of the common known brachot, which we use on a daily basis, and we just do a little resume from last time. And after that resume, we will continue to laws relating primary and secondary foods. So we're finishing up the brachot, and then we go on to a next part, which is also very interesting. So my name is Ishai Harel, and I'm happy we're here together now, that you come to learn together. And I hope you will pick up something from it. If you don't have a Shulchan Aruch, you should consider buying one, Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. And you also can find the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch on the app. The app you can find in the Play Store. It's called Sefaria, or on the website sefaria.com, where you can find a lot of holy books presented with commentaries. Great. Let's start. I wanted laws relating to the concluding bracha. The after bracha, as well as the Birkat Hamazon, which we say after a meal where we have eaten bread, we should not say unless we have eaten at least the prescribed quantity, minimal quantity of food, which is a ketzait. And a ketzait is an olive, the measure of an olive, the measure of a big olive. Or you can say the measure of a small egg, a really, really small egg. Okay. So we say those after brachas, and we say those for if we talk about the eating, before it's eating something and after eating something, we have to deal, we've spoken about the 7 species of food which require a special bracha before and afterwards, but also in the following up how you eat them and which bracha you say first and afterwards. There is a prescribed volgorde. What is volgorde? sequence, a sequence. So the land of Israel is praised for its 7 species, as it is written in Devarim Shmone, Pasuk Shmone, chapter 8, verse 8. It says a land about the Canaan, the land that Hashem gave to Am Israel until today, a land of wheat and barley and vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive trees and honey dates. Well, this verse in the Torah is exactly the verse we use to, I have something in my eye, we use to determine the sequence of our berachot before and after. So there are some chagim in which we have an. So let's start this sentence again because I was distracted. The sequence of the bracha, which is written in Torah, is also the sequence in which we, for example, in certain chagim like Shavuot, we put on the table some of the 7 species, like is mentioned here in this verse, and then we do in sequence take every time something of those species in order to say as much possible brachot, so in order to be as much possible thankful to Hashem for everything that He gave us. So the sequence is first wheat, and then barley. So from wheat and barley we make bread. You're right. So if we have to choose, and there is something on the table, and there is bread on the table, then we say the bracha about bread first. And if the bread is accompanying the whole meal, then we say only hamotzi. If the bread is just a small piece, but there are other courses that are significant enough to bless, or maybe they're just little, or like in a plate for if you do a plate, you all different kind of things to eat. Bread, and something is cheese, and there's some olive, and there's all different kinds. So you can choose. It's not like a meal with bread where you only say hamotzi, but you have a lot of different things you can choose, like in a buffet. Okay, then we say first about the piece of bread you ate, we say the hamotzi. The second one is vines, of wheat, barley, and vines. So vine is like grapes and wine. Fig trees, so figs. Pomegranates, the fourth. That's the fourth one in sequence. If there are olives on the table, then the next one is olive. And the last one are honey dates. So, dates, honey made from dates. So we have honey made or produced by bees, and we are allowed to eat honey produced by bees, but so we call that flower honey, I guess. But here we are talking about honey made out of dates, of tamarim, and that's the one that is meant by in the verse of Devarim 8, verse 8. So, if we are satisfied with our food, the verse say, if you are satisfied with what you have eaten, you shall bless Hashem your God. So since regard to bread, the Torah specifically tells us to thank Hashem for what He has given us, to bless Him for what He has given us, we say the Birkat Hamazon. The Birkat Hamazon constitutes of three complete berachot, and oftenly we see also a 4th chapter in it, but originally 3 complete berachot plus hatov hametiv, which is counted often a lot as the 4th one, which was instituted later on at the yeshiva in Yavne. And the yeshiva in Yavne, that's another story, very interesting. We can talk about it another time, but for today, we're continuing. However, after eating any food that is not bread, but which is made from flour or another species of grain, there we will say Bore mine mesanot before, and afterwards the bracha, which comes with Bore mine mesanot. Great. So we can see wheat and barley for vines, and for wine there's Bore pri hagefen. For vines and figs and pomegranates, those and olives, those 4 grow in trees. Also the vine we call a tree. So if you eat grapes, figs, pomegranates, and olive trees, we say More peri etz. And honey dates, we do. It's a product made out of dates. We say shehakol. But we can imagine if you have also like strawberries on the table, which grows on the ground, then you can say also Bore peri hadama. So the sequence of food determine in the importantness of the sequence of the things that you're eating. You can determine by the verse in Devarim 8, verse 8. That's how we should eat in sequence. Not always on our plate we eat those 3 we eat everything apart, and we say always that if, for example, you have a big plate before you and there are a lot of dates on it, the main ingredient on your plate is dates, and there are some cheeses, and there's a little bit honey on your plate, and there's also 1 strawberry. You can also choose to say only the baracha over the main ingredient which is on your plate. So in that case, you could say Bore pri etz, because dates come from a tree. So you say the bracha which comes with the tree, and you don't have to say also the bracha on the bits of cheese and the bit of honey and etc. that's on your plate. The main ingredient bracha covers everything. We've talked about the 3-facet bracha, which we do with food made out of the 7 which made of the different 5 types of grain, or of the 7 fruits, or of grapes. No, I mean, or of wine. Then, if none of those brachot cover what we have eaten, it is something else we ate. For example, you ate a cooked egg, a chicken egg. That doesn't come from all of them. So before we say Shehakol, Niebit and afterwards we will say the blessing, the bracha Bore Nefashot. Beseder, Be'adama, Be'ashot, we talked about it. Of course, there are a lot of details with this brachot, which you can study yourself in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, and that can determine which kind of prayer you say, or where you have to focus on with your mind when you're saying the bracha. There are people and there are rabbis that consider bread made of rice is also bread, and you could say hamotzi over it. But in general speaking, and well, you can read this in the Gemara. There are a few discussions about it. For example, in Pesachim, Mesachet Pesachim, you can read about it, but also in other ones. But for now, normally spoken, rice is not one of the grains which we consider to be fit to make bread. So when we eat something of rice, some kind of dish from rice, we say Borei Peri Adama because it grows in the ground. Okay, soup, laws relating primary and secondary foods. We talked about it. Laws concerning the order of precedence relating to the brachot. We talked about it. Kiddush, cake, pastry. If you make an error in your brachot, so for example, we start always with Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam. That if you make an error and you say the bracha Borei Peri Adama, so something that grows on the ground, but you meant Borei Peri Etz, something of the tree, you cannot repeat the name of Hashem, which we use in the bracha, the proper name. So the first part of the bracha, we don't repeat again. We just correct ourselves to after Borei Peri Adama, which was erroneous. We say immediately Borei Peri Etz, and that's how we correct ourselves. An often lot when we after the meal on Shabbat, when it's normally a Shabbat meal is not eating, saying the Birkat Hamazon and finish. So in 20 minutes you're ready. The Shabbat table is made, and its purpose is to be together, to thank and bless Hashem for the food. It's like the table is like the Mishbeach, it's like an altar. We don't have an altar anymore, but we compare the Shabbat tables, which we have 3 meals on Shabbat, with the 3 offerings we make and we give, which gave the Kohanim in the Beit HaMikdash. So we have to treat the table and its meal with respect as if it is a korban, as if it is a sacrifice we are making. So we sing and we talk about Torah. If we have a Shabbat meal and we didn't talk about Torah, then the meal is without value. You got nutrition within you, but it didn't give you the blessing which you would get from the Shabbat when you would have talked about Torah. Every Shabbat meal, let's say every meal during the week, but especially the Shabbat table, we have also to share Torah with each other. So what happens after the main course, and we speak and we are full, so we sing songs and we spend quality time together talking about Torah, and then we eat dessert, or it may be fruit or coffee with cake, or it can be simple, can be more exclusive, doesn't matter. What we normally do is, for example, cake with coffee, then we say over the cake, so we did not say the Birkat Hamazon yet. We just did the Kiddush in the beginning, we said Hamotzi in the beginning, we have the meal, we have the intermezzo, then we have our dessert, coffee, tea, cake, something else. Then we say another bracha over the cake, Borei Minei Mesenot, over the coffee, Shehakol Niyeh B'Dvaro. We don't say the specific after brachot over the coffee and the cake, because after we finish the whole meal, then we will do Birkat Hamazon. Birkat Hamazon is considered the highest grade of the after brachot. So if we say Birkat Hamazon, we don't need to say other after brachas from the other fruits of the dessert, which we gave an extra blessing before consuming it. There are a lot of laws about fragrances. You can study that. The main issue is that when you smell something nice, when you smell a flower, when you smell some herbs or something else, there are a few different blessings you can say. You can say Bore at Sebe Samim, we has created fragrant woods. Bore Ishve Vesamim, who has created fragrant herbs. Bore Mine Vesamim, over any of fragrant spices. And then you have fulfilled your obligation. The most common known moment we bless fragrances is at the Havdalah when we are ending Shabbat. We're making a distinction between Shabbat and the 6 days of the week. We use the spices to be remembered, to give ourselves the remembering of the scent of Shabbat, and we hope that it will stay with us. That we'll keep thinking back on the Shabbat, and we will be desiring, looking forward to the next Shabbat. And those fragrances, those herbs, help us with it. But, however, every time you smell a flower or you smell some really nice fragrance, you really should say the proper bracha. Laws relating to the berachot she'echiyanu and hatov hametiv. If you receive good tidings from a reliable eyewitness, and needless to say, if you witness a very good event yourself, if you are the only one who benefits from the tidings, you can recite the bracha she'echiyanu, who kept us in life. But if it is good for you and others as well, you can say the bracha Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Hatov Hametiv. Blessed are you, Hashem, our God, King of the universe, who is good and does good. Let's say He saved us from an accident. Let's say we were in hospital and we got out again healthy. Let's say He blessed us with a financial blessing. And He blessed all your family with the blessing. Well, if He blessed you personally, you can say Shechianu. But let's say you got your new house, then you can share that blessing with the community, and you can say the beracha Hatov Hametiv, who is good and does good, and then there is the bad tidings. When we hear that somebody has died, our first reaction, our first bracha must be, and we can let's also say on let's say there is a earthquake or there's some nature event, destructive nature event, a hurricane or a river that flowed out of its banks, people died, then we say Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech Olam, Baruch Dayan Emet. Dayan Emet, He is the true judge. That is not saying or proclaiming that He has judged those persons, because it's not on us to decide who is judged by Hashem and who is not judged by Hashem. But it is saying that He decided for those persons, for your family, for what happened, the bad tiding, Hashem permitted it to happen. He knows why, and so we bless him that he decided to let it happen, though we don't understand it, and there is a lot of sorrow. So even in our sadness, even in the bad tidings, we still give honor to Hashem. In every situation of our life, we give honor to Hashem. If a wife gives birth to a son, the father says the bracha hatov hametiv, good tidings. If somebody dies, we talked about it, Baruch Dayan Emet. The house you built, it's finished. She'echianu. When you put on new clothes for the first time, you can say the bracha Malbis Arubim, who clothes the naked. That's the same bracha as which we say every morning when we put on our clothes in the morning. But if you put on new clothes, you can best choose it to put it on for the first time on Shabbat, considering if it is Shabbat clothes. If it's sports clothes, don't put it on Shabbat. Go to the Beit Knesset in shorts and t-shirt, like you're going to do sport, because you're not going to do sport. You're going to daven. But you got a new shirt, or you got a new glasses. If it's possible, put them on the first time on Shabbat, and then you can say the blessings, Yanu, that he blessed you for that, and he gave you this very good time of blessing. New articles in the house, Hatov HaMetiv. When you receive a gift from somebody, Hatov HaMetiv. The first time you bring a new fruit that year in your house. So let's say there were no apples all year long, and now the season of apples is there again, and you bought some apples, and the first time this year you brought in your home apples, then is the moment to say Shechianu. When you have not seen a friend for a long period of time, let's say 30 days, let's say some say 75 days, and especially when that person is superior to you, like your father, your mother, your teacher, you can also say Shechianu, because Hashem brought you good tidings in this life. Great. Then we have also the brachot on different phenomena we see, like the rainbow, like a sunny day, like a meteoric shower, or you can say shooting stars. If you see this, if you come to the sea, to an ocean which you have not seen for a long time, on all those moments we can say different brachot. Yes, this is very important. So there are a lot of other berachot. The most important one you can find either in your Sidur or in the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. You should study them. It's very important. Nobody says you should know them by head immediately, but you could buy a small booklet. Keep it with you all the time, and every time something is coming to you, you look the proper bracha, and you look up the proper bracha, and then you are able to say it. But praying for something that already has happened in vain is a vain, useless prayer. It's considered as using the name of Hashem in vain. That means like cursing, using God's name improperly. Why? Well, let me give you one explanation. For example, if you are married and your wife is pregnant And then you start praying to Hashem. Maybe not once or twice, but even 4, 5, maybe all the pregnancy, you keep praying. Please, Hashem, let it be a boy. Let it be a boy. Let's say you didn't make the echo scan, so you don't know if it's a boy or a girl, and you just keep praying, Lord, may it be a boy. For 9 months, you pray, may it be a boy. That is praying in vain, because Hashem already decided whether it would be a boy or a girl. Because if you would make an echo, it would be visible on the screen which sex the baby will have, male or female. So in the belly of the woman, in the womb of the woman, there already is a boy or a girl. So you are not allowed to pray anymore that Hashem will give you a boy, because if in there is already a girl, it will not change. It will stay a girl. And if there in the womb of the woman is already a boy, then you also pray for nothing, because it is already a boy. So we cannot change by prayer the situation of the sex of the baby within the womb of the woman. You can pray before she was pregnant. You can pray, Hashem Elokeinu, I would like to have a baby boy. But the moment that she is pregnant, you can pray for safety. You can pray. You can daven for a healthy baby. You can pray for his prosperity, for his life to come. But you cannot pray and ask Hashem to change his sex, to change him from female to male or male to female. It's already determined by Hashem. So we cannot pray for things that are already decided by Hashem. Keep that in mind when you say a bracha or when you ask Hashem something. Great, my friends. We're now here in chapter 62, laws concerning business and commerce. And we really have to, step by step, talk about this, because there are so many different norms and values about business and commerce, depending on culture, depending on country, depending on ethnic background, depending on if you're rich or poor, etc., etc. Norms and values are not the same all over the world. Even, let's say, if we have the same values, it can be a different norm in different countries. For example, if I greet a woman as a Jew, I cannot shake her hand. It's improper. But I want to be polite to her. So what other way do I have to honor, to greet that specific kind of lady? I take my hand, I put it to my chest, and I make a little bow. And I say, Ma slomech, how are you? That's my way of greeting. But in Holland, or in the United States, or somewhere else in the Western world, people give each other hands, men and women. Not women, but men give also hands to women and women to men. It's considered polite to shake a hand and to say, how are you do? Ma shlomcha, ma shlomech. So both are the value of being polite. Still, the norm is different, the way how we work it out. In Israel, you are polite if you make a little bow to the lady, to the woman. In Holland, you give a hand. There are countries where you give the left hand. There are countries where you give the right hand. It's all depending on where you are. But we don't live according to all those different cultures. We live according to Torah. In being polite, you can consider to not offend the other party, to not, maybe it's the Queen of Holland you meet. And you will meet the Queen and she wants to shake your hand. You don't give her a hand, you do like this. But she will feel embarrassed because she uh, uh, wanted to give her hand to you. She showed already her hand, you didn't shake it. Well, we have to think about it, that in those moments we are uh, required to give the hand, although we don't give hands to women in that specific situation. We should give the Queen of Holland a handshake, because that is what is required in Holland in that situation. And she is also a person of, of she's important, person of importance. So then you give the hand. But in business and commerce, you cannot cheat. If you are Jewish, if you want to live according to Torah, according to Jewish law, then there are specific rules which we have to follow in order to be honest towards Hashem, towards Am Israel, towards Torah, towards yourself. We cannot change that for culture. We cannot change that for ethnic background. We cannot change that for which part of the world you're living in. If you are doing business and commerce uh, as a Jew, then you do it according our values. Great. So the first one that is stated here is be very careful in not, extremely careful in not deceiving your fellow man. We talked about it also in Mesilat Yesarim. Deceiving another person, not being honest, scamming the other person, is not only when he finds out about it, because I know that there are cultures you can deceive the other person as long as the other person doesn't know, it doesn't matter. Because you're happy, he or she is happy, and that's it. You deceive them, but nobody knows. But according to Torah, that's not true, because you should always think that Hashem is behind you, that He is watching you. Heaven is watching us. So if you do something inhonest, He will know. And do you want to have that written in your book of life? I don't. So let's be extremely honest and trying not to deceive our fellow men. So just as deception is forbidden in buying and selling, it is also forbidden in hiring, in working on contract, and in money changing. In all those areas, buying, selling, hiring people, working on contract, and in money changing, we always should be honest, not deceiving one another, not deceiving ourselves, not deceiving other people. If a person has something to sell, he is forbidden to make it look better than that it really is in order to mislead the buyer. So let's say you have something, you want to sell a nice vase for flowers, but it has a few cracks in it. And then you buy some, I don't know, paint, or you polish it very well so that the cracks are not really seen. And then you make a higher price for it because it seems new. You know the cracks are there, but the buyer doesn't know because he doesn't see them. He will see them after a few months when the paint dries in and the cracks are visible again. But because you covered up those cracks, you sell it to the buyer for a higher price. It's not allowed. We're not allowed to deceive the other person, making him or her think that the product he is buying is in a good state. If there are cracks, you should tell them or just leave them visible, so then the buyer will see the cracks and he can decide himself if he wants to pay the price which you are telling him. It is also forbidden, if you are selling good fruits, to mix it with some bad fruits, not too much, but nobody sees it, but you want to make profit out of all of your fruits, and a bad fruit is not fit to be eaten, but it gives weight in the bag. So if you put a few bad fruits in the fruit, you will gain more money, but you are deceiving the buyer. It's not allowed. If you sell apples, you sell good apples. If you sell mushrooms, you will sell good mushrooms. If the mushrooms are of a lower quality, then you will change your price, and then you will make it visible to the buyer that the mushrooms that are of lower quality, uh, the mushrooms of a lower price are that lower price because of the lower quality. Then you're honest. Then somebody can decide, but you cannot deceive the buyer. For example, you work in an ice cream shop and people come and buy ice cream. It's not your shop. Then somebody comes by, which is a very nice person, you like him very much. He pays you for 2 scoops of ice cream, 1 vanilla, 1 strawberry, but you give him a third extra. How should we react? He says, you're my friend, I give you 1 extra. Then the buyer should think, is he the owner of this place? He is not the owner of this place, he's just working here. So why would he give me 1 extra? Well, in a lot of cultures it happens that you get the 1 extra, but next time you have to return the favor to that person. But the favor was not his to give because it's not his ice cream. If he is just working there, if he is not the owner of the ice cream shop, then he is not allowed to give you an extra scoop. So he is stealing, and you are not allowed to taking it because it's bribing. You get kinds of problems and deceiving stuff out of just 1 extra scoop of ice cream. So we should not only as sellers be very strict and secure in how we be honest in our commerce, in our business, but also the buyer should be aware of that he is not being deceived without his with his knowledge, with his consent. So actually, you're being bribed. The leadership point supervisors. The leaders of the community are obligated to appoint supervisors which check on inspect different stores if they are treating their buyers, their clients in a correct way. For example, is the scale they are using weighing correctly? Or if you buy a kilo, you get only 980 grams, then actually there's being stolen from you 20 grams every time you get it. You're not allowed to do that. So also, maybe it's not on purpose, but that's why we have inspectors to check, to look if everything stays honest. If someone seeks to buy or rent something, whether real property or movable goods from a non-Jew or from a Jew, and you agreed on a price before you completed the sale, and there comes someone else and he wants to pay more, or more rent, or he wants to pay more buying it, Um, the latter, the last one that wants to outbid the first one, is called a rasha, a wicked person, because well, which one is the rasha? Even kijken. So you agreed on a price. I'm going to rent this house for uh, for $1,000, and you're not have signed the contract yet, but you agreed on $1,000, and someone else comes, and the renter or seller decides to sell or rent it to the other one, which is prepared to pay $1,200, then the uh, the seller, but also the second one that buys it, they both are called rasha because they're making a deal knowing that you had already a contract with the seller, knowing that you are staying behind without a house. So they gave you a problem, and they treated you in a not honest way, and we are forbidden to do that. If you want to rent or buy a house but you did not decide on the price yet, then you are allowed to outbid someone to say, oh, how much is the price? 200. Okay, but I am you didn't say, okay, then I didn't say, okay, I will rent it for $1,000. No, I didn't say anything. I just asked. And then somebody else comes and he says, what is the rent? And you say, well, it's $1,000. And then he said, well, I'm prepared. If you rent it to me, I will be prepared to pay you 1,200. Well, if it's not decided yet, the seller can say, okay, I decide to sell it to you, to the second one. Um, mm, Mark your purse even though subject by. A man has the moral obligation to keep his word even though he gave no deposit. If you say you're going to pay something, you must pay it afterwards, even if you did not give a deposit. Or if the transaction was not completed, you paid only half, you are obligated to pay also the other half. You cannot retract anymore from that sale. You cannot say, okay, no, I decided not to do it. Give me back the first part. I paid you already. No, you're obligated to pay everything because that's the contract you closed with each other. You have to keep your worth. It's very important. If you don't want the item that you bought, you can sell it afterwards. Mm, the same rule also applies to a buyer. If he decided to buy an article at a certain price, you cannot change your mind, and the seller can also not change his mind anymore. Uh, if you promise to bring somebody a gift, you didn't bring the gift. You are considered as not honest. Um, if your person wishes to sell land or a house and two buyers, possible buyers come, and both of them are saying that they're willing to pay the price, they both want the house, um, then there are also rules. First of all, if one of them comes from your own town, then he has preference above the one that comes from another town. Um, if there are both from your own town, but one of them is your neighbor and the other one lives somewhere else far away, then your neighbor has preference to buy from you. If the other person is the seller's friend who visits you often, and the other is your neighbor that never visits you, then the friend has preference because he is more important to you and he is a more bigger part in your life. If one of them is a friend and the other is a relative, even then, if your contact with the friend is better, your friend has the preference, because it is said, a neighbor who is near is better than a brother far off. But with reference to other people, a relative normally has the preference. Exception is a Torah scholar who has preference even over a neighbor, a family member, or a good friend. We can so considering buying and selling, and then we close this subject. Next time we continue chapter 63, prohibition of deceiving others with words and misleading others. But in doing business, we have to be honest and we have to follow the Torah rules. We cannot deceive each other. And I will tell you, if you do business and commerce according to Torah law, you will be blessed eventually. People can say, well, you didn't get the money you wanted, you didn't earn as much as you wanted, but considering, if you are considered by Hashem as an honest businessman, an honest commerceman, He will give the blessing that you deserve, whether or not the other persons around you think you're doing the right thing. My dear friends, next time we continue. But for now, I wish you Shabbat Shalom. I wish you a meaningful learning. I hope I will see you next time again. Then we will learn and continue learning from this, from the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Meanwhile, keep studying, keep learning, and keep encouraging each other. And I wish you a lot of health in this time of unsure feelings because of Corona. Keep your trust on Hashem. Keep having emunah, because He is the one that has our lives in His hand. Until next time, bye bye. Leitraot.